and welcome to Kalamazoo You. This is a program where we have conversations with city staff on important issues, events, and topics in the city of Kalamazoo. I'm Mike Smith. I'm the communication manager for the city of Kalamazoo and your host. We go to different locations to talk about issues in the city, and we're here in downtown Kalamazoo to talk about parking. We have a parking consultant. His name is Rob Bacigalupi, and thank you for joining us to talk about parking in downtown Kalamazoo.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we have new parking updates in Kalamazoo. So talk about what those updates are.
Well, first of all, we have new parking meters, such as this one behind me, that replace the old mechanical meters. And what they allow us to do is to adjust parking more easily. And this is something that we did this spring. We actually deployed the meters, and then we ended up getting some feedback, and we were able to quickly make some changes. So that's one of the benefits of the newer technology. And it also gives us a lot of data that we can use to better make decisions about parking. You know, as things change, and things are changing quickly in downtown Kalamazoo, demand is going to ebb and flow in certain areas. We can make changes much more easily now that we have this new technology.
The old coin technology is a thing of the past, basically. Is that what you say?
Yes,
Yeah.
Though these will still take coins.
Okay.
So where there's a pay station, you can still use coins, which is great.
Okay. A lot of people have the idea that it's hard to park downtown. Can you talk about why it's easier to park downtown and where you can park down?
Parking in a downtown such as Kalamazoo is sort of multifaceted. There are different times and rates for where you park. If you're in a high demand area like in the Kalamazoo Mall, there are shorter time periods and the rates are a little bit higher. But the reality is there really are a lot of options for parking in downtown Kalamazoo. There are many on-street options, both paid and free. And we have a nice map on the Park Kalamazoo website that kind of lays all this out. There's also the two city parking garages, which offer free 90-minute parking very close to the Kalamazoo Mall and to Michigan Avenue. So that's another very convenient, free, at least for 90 minutes, location for parking.
Before these changes, we had situations in which people would go around and around and around through downtown and the mall trying to find a place to park. So before these changes took place, how difficult was it to park in downtown?
Well, it was a little bit backwards in terms of the pricing because the free area was where the highest demand was, and the street was metered further out where the demand in some cases was lower. So we tried to flip that around a little bit to better match up with demand, with the various options on the street, with the two parking decks that the city has with free 90-minute parking, and then there are also private parking decks as well in other locations around downtown. So there really are a lot of options for folks, whether they want to pay or whether they want to park for free.
Now, some people will say, why can't we just park for free anywhere and any time? What do you say about that?
Well, in a downtown, you've got limited land, and as downtown grows, that land is going to become even more limited. So we need to utilize the land downtown as efficiently as possible. So that means we want to cycle through cars. For example, down here on South Street, there's a lot of, demand is high. We'd rather have folks park for, say, 3 hours, take care of business, and relocate their car somewhere else to make room for the next customer. Now, if they want to stay all day, they can, of course, stay in the parking garages all day. But a place like this, where there's a lot of demand, we want to turn the cars over and turn the spaces over, really, to make room for new customers.
How do you compare downtown Kalamazoo parking to parking in cities of similar size or larger cities such as Grand Rapids, Detroit, or Chicago?
I would say Kalamazoo is probably more on par with like a South Bend, Lansing, whereas in Grand Rapids, I would bet it's much harder to find free options, if at all, in downtown Grand Rapids. So Kalamazoo is a nice mix where you do have a lot of good free options close in for shopping and other otherwise visiting downtown Kalamazoo.
You know, you mentioned free parking, 90-minute parking in the ramps downtown. And if you go to a city such as Chicago or Detroit, that's virtually impossible to get free parking anywhere. So you may spend $20, $30, $40 or more, depending on how many hours you want to spend in that ramp. So talk about what makes us unique in terms of what we offer compared to other cities.
Yeah, I think, the whole parking policy is really fine-tuned for Kalamazoo, not just the market, because we do want to base the policy on how much demand there is on a particular street, but also on the culture, making sure that it's a good fit for the culture, the kind of parking culture of Kalamazoo. So that's how we kind of landed where we did, where we have, the multitude of free options further out. You've got long-term parking further out. You can park for free if you're a downtown employee. There are, long-term parking options further away from downtown.
And if you live downtown as well, too.
And if you live downtown, if you live downtown and you need to park overnight, normally you can't park overnight on the street.
Right.
So there is a very affordable on-street permit system that we have offered at Park Kalamazoo for downtown residents if they happen to not have an option on site or if they don't want to park in the garages.
Now, you also work with businesses in downtown to make these changes as well. So talk about that factor as well.
We had a slate of changes that kind of rolled out on April 1st. And all along the way, we were discussing largely with the DDA DEGA folks, the Downtown Development Authority, who have business members on the board, and they interface with the businesses. We also, of course, worked with Megan Bamer, who's the downtown coordinator. When we launched the first round, we had a meeting just around the corner, and we got a lot of feedback, which led to the tweaks that we made. We essentially made 3 tweaks after April 1st that we deployed May 8th, so it was very quick. And that was free 15 minutes at all the meters. So as long as you start a session, like on the pay station or on Park Mobile on your phone, you get free 15 minutes. That was one. Second one was we scaled back the evening enforcement. We're going to do evening enforcement. We scaled that back. And then thirdly, we adjusted a lot of most of the 90-minute time limits, which are, they were Kalamazoo Mall. Around here, the time limit was 90 minutes, and people were saying that's just not long enough. We need longer, more time to do what we would like to do in downtown. So we changed most of those to 3 hours.
At the end of the day, you have adequate parking, affordable parking for the vast majority of people, basically. So that's a very important thing for downtown to have.
It is, yeah. I mean, the goal of parking is to support economic development and also livability. Those are the 2 stated goals in the 2019 parking study, and that's really the goal. The goals here are to promote those 2 things downtown.
Okay. Now we have some things in place here, such as the kiosk and as well as a parking app. Maybe you could talk about and show us what the kiosk is right here as well.
Sure, yeah. So on a paid block like this, there might be 1, occasionally 2 kiosks if it's a longer block, but usually just 1. So look for the kiosk. Many of them have additional signage, but once you get to the kiosk, it's quite simple. There are instructions right at the top, just 4 steps. You start out by hitting the green button, and that lights up the screen, and then you just hit tap to start, and you get to the second step, which is to enter your plate. So everything is done by plate. You don't get a ticket or anything. There's no printout or anything. You just use your plate as the means of starting a session. And you can pay at these with credit card or coin.
Okay.
And then if you don't want to use this, you can also use the phone app, which is called Park Mobile. And there are actually 2 ways to do that. One is using the Park Mobile app, where you would establish a credit card account with the Park Mobile app. Or if you don't want to use the app, but you're still willing to use the phone, you can just hit the QR code, and essentially that'll open a web browser and it'll just take you through a very similar process.
Okay, all right. Now, Rob, some people maybe, especially elderly people perhaps,
Sure.
may not be tech savvy to utilize the new system. So talk about what they can do to get around that perhaps.
What we find is that some folks are uncomfortable using a smartphone, which would be like the park mobile app, and or maybe they have a smartphone but they just don't want to use their credit card on it,
Right.
or use their credit card at all. And the pay station does allow for both credit card payment but also coin payment. So again, using that the traditional way that you used to use with mechanical meters, where you would put quarters in or nickels in, you can do the same thing here with with the pay station.
Okay, but no dollar bills.
No dollar bills. Dollar bills tend to jam up machines, so
Okay.
we unfortunately don't accept dollar bills.
That ends our segment. Rob Bacigalupi, thank you for joining us to talk about parking in downtown
Thank you
and
for
the
having me.
exciting things that are going to be taking place downtown as well.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
That ends our segment, and thank you, and we'll see you next time.